Hi there, and welcome back to Season 3 of Cyburst, a podcast all about science, popular culture, and entertainment. This podcast is for everybody, no matter if you're a punk gamer, a rural farmer, or even a sustainability scientist.
Ooh.
We are your hosts, Isabel
and Ella, two science communicators and solarpunk enthusiasts, and we are taking this podcast on a journey into hopeful futures. Now today, this episode, we are talking about Solarpunk Gaming. How can we play with the future? We're going to talk about video games, role-playing games, design games, board games, and how we can make a sustainable future through play. But before we dive into this super exciting episode, it's really important that we acknowledge that this episode of Cyburst is being recorded on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. Dawra Nuna, Dawra Ngunnawal, Yangu, Nali Manyin, Duni Manyin, Ngunnawal Wari, Dawa Wari Dindi, Wangirilit Jin Yin. This is Ngunnawal country. Today, we are all meeting together on Ngunnawal country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the elders. And as always, we do extend those respects to all traditional custodians on the lands that you're currently listening or watching to this episode of Cyburst on. Again, if you don't know whose lands you're on, today is a really great day to find out and learn something about the history and the ongoing care and wisdom for country. And with that said, let's get into the episode, Isabel. I can feel your excitement for this one.
Yes.
As a gamer.
Yeah, I'm very keen for this one. We've been wanting to do a Solarpunk Gaming episode for, months and months and months now. Pretty much since we came up with the theme of Solarpunk for this season, right?
We always knew there'd be a gaming episode.
Yeah.
And you might be wondering, why is that? And games and kind of the act of play, particularly whilst engaging with others, is so important. Anecdotally, many of us can recall being small children and being told to go outside and play, or to play with your friends, play with your siblings. And that was like a main pastime of our youth, of inventing games and playing games. So is it any surprise that we do this at a time when our brains are so plastic, they have such a malleable quality to them, we're learning about the world, and this was one of the best ways we can think to engage with it at that time. One of the things I love about games is that they allow us to engage with concepts in our real world as well as with fictional concepts.
Yeah.
And when you play a game with someone, you're doing a live, collaborative imagination session. No matter if you're following a video game storyline, a board game set of rules, or you're playing with dolls in a bedroom.
Totally. I really love the immersion aspect of games, and in immersion that's in a different way to, say, if you're watching a movie or a show or reading a book. It's that sort of playable aspect where you really totally immerse yourself in something.
Yeah, and it's that immersive aspect and that engaging aspect of it that leads us to the concept of gamification in education. And that's all about increasing student engagement in learning by including game-like elements in learning, and the benefits of that include supporting curiosity and experimentation, cultivating a positive attitude to failure, delivering an individualized learning appropriate to the level and pace of where someone's at, so you can engage with the game on many different levels. And gamification can also facilitate focus and flow. These benefits all come from education.gov.au, so the Australian education government website, and they're particularly seen, or gamification is particularly seen as a toolkit or resource for STEM education for teachers.
Yeah, totally. And it's becoming increasingly more popular because as more people realize those benefits for kids and for making the classroom a bit more engaging, they're starting to figure out ways of how they can gamify their educational experiences, especially in STEM, right?
100%. And it's not just limited to in the classroom. So we're even seeing now in some really complex fields such as policy that gamification is being brought into the room as a way to creatively problem solve, because it allows you to engage with ideas you might not have engaged with otherwise because you're in this like field of play. And this field of play can vary drastically. Like games and play, those are really broad categories. I listed a whole bunch at the start of video games, board games, role-playing games, card games. But also all these games can incorporate strategy. They can be competitive, cooperative, a mix of both sometimes. And some games, pretty much all of these games can teach us something about aspects of our world.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I kind of wanted to talk about the power of gaming and the power of gamers.
Yeah.
And okay, does everybody remember our friend Jane McGonigal from the last episode?
Did we have a whole episode themed around how cool her ideas are?
Yeah, so Dr. Jane McGonigal, a little recap. She's a futurist and game designer, and she wrote this book called Imaginable about how to create hopeful futures. And we talked a lot about it in our last episode on optimism. So if you want to hear even more about that side, go check out that episode. But I wanted to talk about her ideas around gaming and the power of gamers, which I especially saved for this episode because I could have talked about it last time, but
she had to hold herself back for you for this episode.
Yes. So she argues in Imaginable that there's a group of people who are particularly well equipped for radical change. And by extension, I also argue solarpunk-like thinking and doing. And that is, you guessed it, gamers.
Whoa.
And this all comes back to our perception of power and the psychology around that. So if we want to feel like we have any sort of control over a positive future, we have to learn that we have power and we have agency. And the thing about gamers is that they have an extreme sense of agency and control.
Because that play aspect,
exactly,
you're engaging with it.
Exactly. And so they found from the research that gamers set much higher goals in their everyday lives, are less likely to quit in the face of real world setbacks. They're more likely to ask for help when they need it, and offer assistance, and also more likely to volunteer to help with a social problem others might feel like is beyond their abilities or control.
Well, it sounds like this is a perfect way to solve for the climate crisis.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so researchers who've looked into all these things believe that this is because video games and games more generally teach control over outcomes. They train you to unlearn the quote-unquote freeze response, and encourage experimentation and optimism via what Jane McGonigal calls the future's call to adventure, and finding your own unique way to help, whether it's in a solo scenario or it's in a multiplayer game. So it's really encouraging exploration in a safe environment.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and then I also wanted to say here that in the book Imaginable, McGonigal also gets you to, following on from the idea that, well, gaming gives you more agency and control, she gets you to partake in a series of social simulation games to help train you into that sort of thinking and doing. And these games are in the form of hypothetical scenarios set about 10 years in the future, to put your skills into practice and train yourself to be more like these gamers, like I was saying. And this is because, quote, a social simulation is a springboard toward making a better world. The result of a simulation was a whole bunch of newly super empowered, hopeful individuals that we talked about in our optimism episode 2, and how you can be that. Whatever positive impact a social simulation might have, it is primarily each participant's increased sense of urgent optimism and readiness for whatever's next. But there's also so many other types of games, not just social simulations, that can help you get into a solarpunk mindset. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So if you're a gamer, if that's how you love engaging with the world and engaging with concepts, no matter how new or experienced you are in the solarpunk context, we really think you're going to enjoy today's episode.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about some solarpunk games.
Yes, I've been waiting.
Oh, okay. So some things to think about that might make a game solarpunk. And I'm thinking these are things like world setting, game mechanics, and philosophies. To me, those are sort of the three core things that come up across a whole bunch of the examples we're going to be talking about.
I'd also add aesthetics to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very strong. Sometimes it comes through the world setting, but I think it is pretty strong on its own as well.
Yeah, 100%. And so we're going to be having a look at all of these elements throughout this episode and all the examples we're about to get into. And like every Cyburst episode, splitting them into three categories. So we've got video games, then we've got board games, including role-playing games, and then we've got other types of games that don't necessarily fit neatly into the rest of the categories. Okay, so let's start with some Solarpunk video games. This is where I really went ham with my examples, so I will try to be I will try not to talk for too long, but I feel very passionately about this, and I just kept discovering more and more things.
And what Isabel doesn't realize is I then went back through and discovered even more video games to talk about. So this is going to be a bonkers section all about the video games that incorporate Solarpunk.
Yes, and I think I've listed so many video games because I play video games mostly. And it's a great thing that Ella plays board games mostly, so that balances us out. And then
Yin
she's
and
got
yang.
Yes, exactly. And then you've got some that are sit in the other category as well, which sort of don't. Yeah. So
we'll get to that. Hold on for a secret third thing.
Yes. So without further ado, video games. I wanted to start by talking about Terranil.
Oh,
which
good old favorite.
Yes, it is a favorite. And this is one that's an intricate environmental strategy game. Some of you might have played it actually, because you can play it through Netflix, I think.
Yes, it's part of Netflix games, which is wild.
Yeah, so you can play it through Netflix, but it's also on Steam now. So strategy game about transforming a barren wasteland into a thriving, balanced ecosystem. And at its core, it's all about rewilding, and it has varying levels of difficulty and different starting biomes in need of restoration. And you need to be strategic about what sort of technology to use for each of those, and that's those specific cases. And Terranil, we actually mentioned in our Solarpunk Radical Sustainability episode from season 1.
Way back when.
So what a throwback. But I was super keen to come back to it here because it's a particularly important one and has a unique Solarpunk mechanic.
Yes.
That I haven't seen done nearly as well in other games, if I've seen it at all in other games, to be honest. And this is the decommissioning aspect.
Yeah. So I would say a lot of these games kind of pick up post-apocalyptic. What are you doing in the rubble of what you've created? And this game doesn't let it become rubble. It says, you've put this system here. It is your responsibility to decommission it.
Yeah.
And that's so cool and so Solarpunk.
Yeah, it's amazing. That was the part that excited me the most about playing it. And so how it works is after you've restored the environment and animal habitats, you have to then sustainably remove the infrastructure you used and the technology you used to do it and leave basically no evidence that you were ever there. And you do this by recycling all the material used to create an airship and then leave the map like you were never there.
Yeah. And I will say there's quite a bit of strategy to this game.
Yes.
And I found particularly some of the later levels really tricky to progress through. So whilst it's a really fun idea, it's also really fun to play.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very fun. And yeah, it's such an important step, and often the decommissioning aspect is an overlooked step. Like when we're finished with a technology or infrastructure, we don't always think about how do we make sure that it doesn't continue leaving an impact.
And there are questions about where that responsibility lies.
Exactly.
Is it with the producer? Is it with the consumer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are really complex real world questions that this game explores.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we really have to find ways of limiting technology waste for a true solarpunk future. And that's kind of what this game is exploring. But I did want to say there are some debates online about whether this game is fully solarpunk. Because some people I discovered argue it's actually not completely solarpunk because there's no people in the rewilded world. So there's no way of talking about balance between humans and nature and technology or a sustainable civilization. And this was an interesting idea and I would love to see this realized. One blogger suggested that maybe having a level with a sustainable city tile interacting with its environment in a novel way would actually help fix this.
Yeah, and it would also be interesting to see how those other ecosystems connect in with the people. Like, are these ecosystems essentially natural parks that the people are trying to preserve?
Yeah.
Are these, specifically protected places? Do people ever visit them? Obviously, people were there to put in that infrastructure, so it can be accessed by people.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see some integration there.
Yeah, totally. It would be great to get a bit more sort of lore happening around the game, right?
Give me a lore dump.
Yeah, exactly. A bit more insight. So I would love to see them do that, hopefully. So game designers who made Terranil, if you're listening to this.
We want more. We love it and we want more.
Yeah, 100%. So that's Terranil. My next example is one called Solarpunkification.
I wonder if that's Solarpunk.
So it's outright stated that it's Solarpunk.
Which many of these games have.
Yes, yeah. And this one is actually a short web-based game. It's free to play online and you play as a rebellious gardener planting gardens in abandoned buildings and you water plants with water gathered from burst pipes. You collect seeds. You have to avoid the police.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and transform your city into a green solarpunk world.
Actively creating that future.
Yes.
I love it.
And something that's kind of adds an extra solarpunk element to it is that it's actually, the game is a little bit janky. So very DIY. And it's got pixelated graphics. And it's very indie. And it was actually created by a university student in the US for one of their courses. So I thought that was pretty cool and very solarpunk.
Yeah, I love that. Great to see what you can do when you have the pressure of an assignment behind you.
Yeah, there's actually some really funny, because I went and read underneath it, I was trying to find more information about this game. And the student posted, they were like, it got mentioned in this magazine or it got an award or something. And then it's just like, lol. Like this was just for a university course, but it's getting all this attention.
Oh, I love that for them though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jumping off of things we've already spoken about with Terranil, I'd just like to mention here in this section that the Pokemon games, particularly Legends ZA, the current new video game in the Pokemon franchise, it has a lot of solarpunk features, functionality, and story elements, and particularly Legends ZA has aesthetics, as I've been sending Isabel lots of screen caps. And I'm not going to waffle on here about it because though this is our gaming episode, we have a whole episode dedicated to Pokemon and Is It Solarpunk? So check out season 3, episode 5 for that.
Yeah.
But I do just want to state here, Pokemon belongs in this category, but it does not deserve any more of our audio time this season.
Yeah, not right now. But that was a particularly good episode. And we talk, in that one too, we talk beyond the game as well. So yeah, beyond the gaming aspect.
But we have too many games to get through here,
yes,
including a rogue one from you, Isabel?
Yeah, I think this is kind of rogue, but while we're talking about sort of specific mechanics in games rather than the whole game being solarpunk. And this was actually not my idea. This was my brother Oliver's idea. So thank you, Oliver, for bringing this to my attention. Plants vs. Zombies. The sunflowers in Plants vs. Zombies.
I have such a fond, warm nostalgia for Plants vs. Zombies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. It's a great game. I played it so much growing up.
Big love to the sunflowers. Big love to
Yes.
the double-headed sunflowers.
Yes.
Big love to the three-peater.
Yes. So the sunflower in Plants vs. Zombies is kind of the mascot of the game
100%.
and plays such an important role in your defensive strategies as well. So the sunflower produces all this extra sun to plant, so you can plant more plants to fight the zombies. So she's one of the most critical, if not the most critical plants in the game. And I also just wanted to quickly side note here that sunflowers in real life don't actually do this. They don't actually generate more sun.
I mean, who knows where GMO will take us in the future?
Yeah, you never know, right? But this mechanic is just a pun on the plant that she's based on because sunflower, haha. But yeah, and the other thing is she's also portrayed as this bright and cheerful plant to match her sun-based abilities, which leans very heavily on the whole optimism side of Solarpunk.
Which, as we discussed last episode, super crucial
Yeah.
and super amazing.
Yeah, so the sunflowers in Plants vs. Zombies. Let us know, listeners, if there's anything else about Plants vs. Zombies that's maybe Solarpunk. Because I feel like there's probably more to be said there. But yeah, apart from that, I also wanted to mention the fact there's actually nowadays lots of sustainability themed expansion packs and mods out there for video games. And this example is also not mine. This comes from our friend Danny. So thank you, Danny, for this one. And this is the Sims 4 Eco Living expansion pack, which I haven't played, but Danny had lots to say about this. So I'm bringing it up here because I was like, this seems important. I think this is a good example. So she was telling me that in this expansion pack, you can get solar panels, water generators, wind turbines to produce water and energy, which also reduces your household bills.
Love to see it.
Yes. And she also said, this is interesting too, there's this community voting aspect where you vote on things to live more sustainably, like green energy, more gardening, power that can be shut off. And if you don't follow the rules, you actually get fined for it too. So that's some community building there.
I love the idea of what you said as expansions and modifications
Yes.
to games, because they're kind of expansions and modifications to the current reality we're living in as well. So I think that's a great integration from games to real life there.
100%. And that actually is something that makes it even more Solarpunk too, right? Where it's making it an achievable
And
future.
building the very near future.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually love that point. Yeah, it's so true. Okay, so those are some existing video games out there. But there's actually a whole heap
So many.
of Solarpunk video games that are about to launch in the near future, because it seems like Solarpunk is increasingly becoming more popular in the gaming space, which is very exciting.
And Isabel and I have been tracking some of these for weeks, months, and in some case, like this next one, over 1 or 2 years. I think it's been plural years.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. This one, definitely most excited about this one. And this is Loftier. And there are many things to love about this, but something that I do love is that it was started by a young Australian couple.
We love a homegrown.
Yep, 100%. And it's a cozy Solarpunk MMO. So massive multiplayer online game. And it's about working together to build a better, more sustainable world and creating meaningful impact as a community. And this is also one that we briefly mentioned in our season 1 Solarpunk episode. But the game, everybody, it's finally coming out later this year. So we got
excited to play it with you.
I know, and so we got to talk about it more, right? And I have to say, just from watching some of the devlog videos and reading some of their blog posts, I already love the wholesome, cozy aesthetics of the game. everything feels like a character, even the landscapes and the technology. And this is very much like the way that Studio Ghibli approaches creating landscapes and technology and characters.
Yeah.
Feels a lot like there's some inspiration from that. And I just want to hug everything in the game. Like, everything just looks so huggable. The airships, for example, they have these little eyes on them, and the pets are so cute. So they're definitely leaning heavily on the kawaii factor, and it's working.
Which is a big bonus.
Yes. It is. So that's kind of another way they're creating that cozy solarpunk vibe. So as part of Loftia, you have your own floating island and can join up with others to form neighborhoods where you can then decorate, farm, craft, party together, and contribute to community projects, which is pretty cool. You can also venture on group quests to solve puzzles across deserted factories and other sky islands. And aside from the community-focused philosophy it's got going on, a particularly solarpunk element of this video game is how you can turn trash into treasure.
Love that. More of that is needed.
Yes, absolutely. So what you can do in the game is repurpose discarded materials into valued equipment through their innovative new crafting mechanic. And this, for example, could look like upcycling an old tire into a flower planter, or even crafting unique furniture from reclaimed wood. So that's pretty cool. There's also a new age farming mechanic in it where you can master sustainable farming techniques like hydroponics. So hydroponics is about growing plants without soil and using water-based solutions instead. And this is also a mechanic in Terranil,
Yes,
I believe.
I think so.
Same with aquaponics. So that combines hydroponic technology with things like sustainable fish farming or food production. And you can also master trellis farming, which uses those vertical frames to support climbing plants. And this actually is really good because it saves a lot of space and reduces disease. It keeps produce cleaner and makes harvesting a whole lot easier for lots of different crops and vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, beans, melons.
And in real life keeps cities cooler too, vertical farming.
Exactly. And the tools in Loftia are all crafted using renewable energy generated from the sun, wind, and rain. So love that. And just finally, I want to say that a great component of the pet mechanic too is that you can adopt or rescue endangered animals. and look after
that's
them.
really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that a lot.
me too.
Something else I like a lot is yet another example of a really cool forthcoming game called The Guardian of Nature. Now, this is a forthcoming puzzle adventure game created in a beautiful hand-drawn, hand-animated style where you play as the guardian of nature trying to save nature and, crucially, the tree of life. So it's described as a modern twist on a point-and-click game, and the mechanics here allow you to change size whilst you explore different environments, both above and below ground. It includes nature-inspired interconnectedness mini-games called Solarpunk puzzles. So this is another named Solarpunk game. And from the previews, these Solarpunk puzzles look a little bit like fitting plant roots together, but it's actually fitting together the energy flow of mycelial mushroom networks, which have Solarpunk measuring devices built around them.
No way.
So I'm really excited for the lore of this game and how they fit in that Solarpunk storytelling element.
Yeah.
And I particularly love how the focus of this game is all about the interconnectedness of nature. So right now you can play the first episode on Steam, and this project is launching soon to be funded on Kickstarter, which is a theme that will come up a lot in this as well. Kickstarter as a place for Solarpunk games to get their start.
Yes, which is also Solarpunk in itself, isn't it? Using Kickstarter.
Yeah, because it's community-backed funding and support. Yeah. So it's, I guess, a meta play on the Solarpunk narrative.
Yes. Well, that one I'm after this immediately going to go and look up. Did you say it was on Steam?
Yes, the first episode.
Immediately wishlisting this. Immediately after we finish recording. It's also got a bit of the Lunarpunk thing happening with the mushrooms.
Yeah. Yes. I think you'll love it.
Yes.
And I hope you get it so I can come around and play it.
Well, I will be. Another one I've got is one that's just called Solarpunk.
I wonder what that's about.
And this is on Steam as well, and it's a survival game in a technically advanced world of floating islands. So we've got a few with the floating island theme.
I remember this one.
Yeah, do you remember when we first looked it up? It's a little more developed now. There's a demo out. And in it, alone or together with your friends, you can make buildings, you can grow food, craft gadgets, and hop on an airship to explore distant islands in the sky. And this one has got all of the lovely blues, greens, and yellows of Solarpunk in the world's aesthetics. Like I said, there's a demo out on Steam if you want to go try it. That's free to play. A cool mechanic of this one is that you have to generate electricity using wind and solar energy, and the weather conditions affect how much energy you produce. So you have to plan ahead and also store energy in batteries and use wireless power to keep everything running. So there's a lot of strategy behind it.
I love the sound of that.
Yeah. Also, you can automate your tasks using transport drones to gather resources to give you more time to build and explore. And you can also build your own renewable powered airship for traveling to surrounding islands and discovering new resources. And I also want to say something that the game's blurb states outright is, quote, "In Solarpunk, you live in symbiosis with animals. There is no exploitation, only coexistence. Pigs, for example, will dig up truffles if treated well. Growing fruits and vegetables is your main source of food. Plant seeds in the ground and harvest them once they're fully grown." Yeah, so I love that it's very clear about being a Solarpunk game.
Yes.
And telling you outright that this is what your experience is going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one, I am so interested to hear your reaction to this.
Okay, tell me.
So I found this game that is a Solarpunk satirical video game.
Yeah.
That's under development, and it is called Future ? No thanks.
Oh, that's so unrelatable as a title.
And it's a narrative-driven open world game set in an eco-socialist utopia. The creator describes it as like Grand Theft Auto, but instead of doing crimes, you go around talking to people like in a point-and-click adventure game.
But still causing chaos?
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll learn why in a minute. So what I'm going to do is read you the blurb because it's very funny.
Okay.
So here is the blurb, everybody. The year is 2045, and society has never been better. Climate change is finally being tackled, democracy thrives, and technology serves humanity rather than enslaving it. There's just one problem. You. You are Harvey Huffstone, a grumpy elder who no longer fits in, and today is the last day of your life. Your final mission? Completing your bucket list before your self-scheduled euthanasia. Indulge in outdated pleasures, explore a post-industrial Midwest, clash with a society that's moved on without you, and maybe, just maybe, leave with fewer regrets. And then it also has as dot points, fully voiced and fully acted, open world freedom meets classic point-and-click humor, artisanally made with locally sourced talent and no capitalist overlords, hours of entertainment for leftists, and in brackets, and right-wingers too dumb to get it.
Oh, my goodness. This sounds like a game that would completely enthrall me.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit intimidated by being the person who's not enjoying what sounds like my utopia.
Yeah.
However, seeing it through somebody else's eyes, I'm sure is
Exactly.
very refreshing.
yes
mindset to explore.
So
and I like that.
That is what I love about this idea, getting to explore a different perspective, because a lot of us obviously who want that solarpunk future don't disagree with it.
Yes.
But this is giving the sort of the other side's take and letting you kind of trying to help you understand or give you that other perspective so you're aware of it. And it's a very like critical game. And also the trailer is very entertaining. So we're going to link that too. I'm going to show you afterwards as well.
I'm keen.
It's very funny. And the creator, his name is Paolo Pedercini. He calls the game Rooted Solar because it takes place in a future not too different from today. I mean, it's also 2045, which is not that far away.
Oh, don't say that to me.
And there's a lot of the urban landscape that's still post-industrial Midwest America, often just slightly upgraded. Also, the society is complex and not everybody is preoccupied with maintaining their co-op community garden.
Yeah.
And he says that, quote, the political economy portrayed in it has elements of bright green environmentalism, fully automated luxury communism with a touch of degrowth. In my mind, solarpunk is a cultural trend that is mainstream in this fictional world, with some characters even dressing up in a solarpunky fashion. However, it is one style that exists alongside other tendencies and subcultures.
Imagine solarpunk being so popular that it's no longer punk. That's actually so radically crazy.
Yeah. Which is, I guess, kind of what this creator's exploring. And the creator is actually quite an interesting guy too. So I find out that he's an arts professor with a background in media design and also used to make political cartoons for local newspapers and played in an anarcho-punk band.
The punk is strong within him.
Yes. So yeah, I think I'm particularly interested to see where that one goes.
I feel kind of endeared to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you mentioned Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, yes.
May I introduce, and this is the game I was telling you right before we recorded that I would love to play because I'm into cozy. May I introduce to you Crescent Country.
Oh, okay.
A game fully backed on Kickstarter within 23 hours.
Whoa.
Less than a day. So it's described as a single-player open world delivery adventure set on a painterly witch tech solarpunk island.
Oh, this is what you were telling me earlier.
Yes,
You're like, the which one, Isabel?
The which one? So this beautiful game asks the question, how do you find home? How do you make a new space yours? How does a new location become your own with all the warmth and familiarity that comes with it? And it's based on both the designers moving to a new place as young adults and learning a lot about themselves in the process. Its description also says that it's an earnest, heartfelt game about kissing, drifting, and being a mess in your 20s. So I thought it would really appeal to you on a lot of fronts. And I want to talk about how it falls into kind of this more witchy solarpunk aesthetic, where, you know, you race on broomsticks and you've got kind of like a magical DIY look to you.
Yeah.
Some of the other features kind of this witchy solarpunk aesthetic is upgradable technology for your broom, which you race as the sun sets. That's the racing time.
Yeah.
It features a gorgeous huge windmill on Crescent Country, working wind farms, a repair shop, a magical connection to the land, and the land is having some problems. And here I detect, preemptively, huge solarpunk sustainability themes in connection to the land through the magic witchy storyline.
Yeah. Yes, you are correct. This one is me.
Yeah. So when this comes out, love to play it with you.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I guess a lot of that, the sort of witchy, if you think about Wiccan culture as well, does lean heavily on the connection with nature, and that is kind of delving into the whole lunarpunk.
I was about to say, it's a little bit lunarpunk.
Yeah. Lunarpunk listeners, we did do an episode on that if you wanted to go check it out.
I feel like we're covering a lot of solarpunk ground in this season. I'm very impressed with ourselves.
We are. It's amazing. And speaking of Lunapunk,
Yes.
I want to talk about another upcoming video game that is both Lunapunk and Solarpunk-esque, and that is one called Bumpkin and Sprout.
Bumpkin.
And this, I know, it's so cute, right? This is one that I think we also have to play together.
Maybe this is going to have to be a series.
Oh, wink, wink.
Oh, okay. Moving swiftly forward.
And so Bumpkin and Sprout is a cooperative 3D platform adventure. It's 2-player, which is why I said we have to play this one.
Yes.
And it's a mixture of action, humor, and environmental awareness. And you play as whimsical mushrooms.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much already.
On a mission to save nature from the clutches of the pollution spirit. And like I was saying, if you have a look at some of the world design, it's quite Lunapunk, with all of the glowing purples, and also the fact that you play as mushrooms too, and the mushrooms the main characters.
I'm already obsessed.
Yeah.
I'm already obsessed. To close out this section, finally, I'm going to mention Silk Grove, which is another upcoming Solarpunk Kickstarter, described as a Solarpunk cozy game, also known as Sozypunk, whatever I said earlier. We don't know a whole lot about this one because it hasn't actually launched yet to be backed on Kickstarter, but we do know it's an open world game set in a post-apocalyptic environment following a war between the humans and the robots or machines.
Okay.
In this game, you take on the role of Annie, who is a young restorer, and I love that description.
Yes.
Equipped with a set of tools and a mission to help rebuild the world using sustainable practices. So features of this game include open world exploration, collecting and scavenging, crafting and building, fixing and maintenance, which I particularly love, framing, resource management, camp home, and lots of stories.
Wow, it's covering so much ground.
So that's one to keep our eye on as more develops.
I definitely love, like you said, the idea of a young restorer. It makes me think of the phrasing maker heroes as well, very heavily leaning on that idea of characters, especially young characters, building the future through sustainability.
And the idea of fixing and maintenance, not just building new, even from recycled. It's what can we keep and sustain and maintain. But that brings us to the end of our video game segment. And we're now going to move on to talk about one of my favorite aspects of games, which is board games, card games and RPGs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with one that every time I see it, I take a picture of it and I send it to Isabel, and then Isabel goes, "Oh yeah, I remember this." And I'm like, "What?" It's a board game called Life in Reterra. I see it all the time. I'm constantly on the edge of purchasing this.
Yes.
It's described as a community close brackets building game where you, the players, are tasked in building a community from the remnants of the past. So it's a tile laying strategy and engine building game. There are lots of trade-offs you have to make as part of gameplay about the future you want to build, the actual buildings you place, and the civilization you encourage to grow here. And lots of people plays it for its replayability because depending on what your moves are, the whole framing of this new civilization and rebuilding changes. So I'm loving that aspect in game mechanic.
Yeah.
Also, I think the fact that you can replay it also feels a bit of a Solarpunk.
That's amazing.
Meta mechanic as well.
I just wanted to also take a moment to say, from the examples so far we've talked about, just how many seem to be strategy games.
Yes.
And how it's literally teaching people Solarpunk strategy.
Yeah,
basically.
and Solarpunk skills.
Yeah.
And Solarpunk thinking.
How cool is that?
That's really cool. Another game that does some of this is Solar City. Now, this is a board game that was funded. I know I was amazed by the one that was funded in 23 hours. This is fully funded in just 4 hours on Kickstarter in 2018.
Whoa, how did that happen? So fast.
I'm going to tell you how because this text I stole from the page and I love it. So They say, lead the solar revolution, become an architect, biologist, designer, or scientist of the future and transform the old city landscape into a solar eco garden. Introduce improvements that will heal the damaged ecosystem of our planet and save the Earth from oncoming catastrophe. So it seems like a really cool board game that a lot of people loved, and in another meta Solarpunk move, the creators also pledged that one tree would be planted for every person who backed this project.
Oh, that's amazing. Actually, that's probably what contributed to it being funded so quickly. It's
walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Moving on to an example that's here with us in the studio for those keen watchers. And listeners, we're going to do some videos afterwards so you can see the Easter eggs in the studio.
Yeah.
But I've got with us a copy of the board game Harmonies. I love Harmonies. This is my current go-to game if I want to play a game. It's one in which you create a miniature world where animals live in perfect harmony with nature. It's, again, a strategic tactical game where you arrange habitat tokens to create a balanced and harmonic environment for a variety of animals. I love how you can play this game either solo or competitively.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't actually played the solo version yet, but I do look forward to that.
I'd be interested to see how it differs as well. How the experience is different.
Yeah. And just by looking at the box, you can see it's got the Solarpunk color scheme on lock. It's yellow, it's blue, it's all sorts of greens.
Yeah.
And something I particularly love about this game is how it decenters the human whilst keeping humans as part of the story. So houses and buildings are still present in this game and integrated as part of the ecosystems, but the game is ultimately about balancing ecosystems for the widest variety and amount of animals to coexist there together.
That's really cool. I think we have to play that one because I haven't played it.
I think you'd love this.
Yeah.
And maybe this is what we'll do before all of our working bees. All of our planning sessions, we'll play a game of this to warm up the brains.
Yes.
Really, really big fan of those board games. But as well as board games, we also have some Solarpunk RPGs to talk about.
Yeah, so role-playing games seem to be huge for the Solarpunk community as well, which I'm not surprised by this because RPGs are inherently community building games. Because they're very immersive and they're bringing lots of people together and you get to bring your own like unique take to things and expression and things. So yeah, not surprised by that. But there's so many Solarpunk RPGs, some that exist already, some that are in development. The first one is fully automated with an exclamation mark. That's just really important that I say that that's there.
It's enthusiastic about that.
And this one is an open source tabletop RPG set in a Solarpunk future. And in terms of characters in this role-playing game, because that's ultimately such an important part of role-playing games, you can play many different characters, and the instructions say this, quote, "The game offers instructions for playing unmodified or minimally modified humans, heavily augmented humans, meaning adapted for the ocean, forest, space, or something else, talking chimps, gorillas and birds, non-verbal, non-human animals, androids, disembodied sentient computer programs, and transhumanist cyborgs." Hi, Donna Haraway.
I know. I was literally just thinking Donna Haraway would love this.
We don't provide instructions on playing as a sentient beehive or 3 kids in a trench coat, but if your game master is cool with it, we're confident that you can make that work.
Love.
So that's pretty Solarpunk. And while they provide some character types for inspiration, they also say fully automated doesn't use character classes. Any character can build out their skills and special abilities in whatever way suits them. So it's very inclusive.
I really like that.
Yeah.
I really like that a lot.
And that just means that it's giving you so many opportunities to bring in more of your own personality and life experiences as well, which is amazing. Also, the creators say this about the game's Solarpunk ethos. Our first and greatest goal is to try to spur adoption, and nothing sells like free. Also, we're aware that tastes vary. It's clear that some people like solarpunk stories set in the gritty in-between, when a better world is fighting to emerge from the dying one. Others, me, like things cozy and rustic. Some prefer more rural settings. By making this game fully open source, it liberates anyone who wants to spin off their own take on the concept. So basically, it's solarpunk all the way down to how it's distributed.
Again, another great example of meta solarpunk mechanics. Wow, I really like that. Another tabletop role-playing game I want to throw in the ring for consideration is one called Solarpunk Futures, which was backed fully on Kickstarter in 2023. It describes itself as a 10-minute rules light role-playing game. I love rules light. That sounds great. Where players imagine the pathways to a desirable world from the perspective of a utopian future. And then through dialogue and collaborative world building, collective and visionary narratives emerge of a new society, along with plausible scenarios for how to get there. So it kind of seems like half role-playing game, half social planning kind of game.
Yeah.
They say, with your help, we can share the lush solarpunk aesthetic with more people and help inspire a social, ecological politics rooted in care and freedom. And I also love this text from their What is Solarpunk part of the Kickstarter campaign. And they say, it's a restorative justice process at a planetary scale.
Oh my God, I love that phrase.
Among people and between humans and non-human nature. That means reclaiming pieces of pre-capitalist culture, material, accountability for old practices, and radical adaptability towards new ones, all while maintaining a utopian and ecological vision for the potentialities of our interrelations in the present. But just that term, it's a restorative justice process at a planetary scale. I love their solarpunk vision, and I have no doubt that with that, their interpretation, their game is amazing.
Yeah, I love that too. Oh, how did you find that one?
This was one that I researched at the very start when we planned this whole season out. And I was looking at what was possibly out there for our games episode. So this one's been cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's another one that I found called Solarpunk 2050. And this one is an RPG where players can explore and build their solarpunk utopia. But this is what I particularly like about it. Instead of one approach to building a resilient future, there are three.
And you have to choose between them?
I believe so, yes. So the first one is The Lost. And this group shuns the technology of the transistor age and explore the ruins of the lemmings who caused the disasters.
Love that.
Yeah. The second type are the pioneers who embrace all that is new and invent the foundations of the new world based on something akin to mad science.
Okay.
And then the final one is the norms who embrace community and automation in their hive cities where they come close to performing magic with their hive controllers.
Okay.
So something really cool about this RPG is that the protagonists from all of these factions have to find ways of working together to overcome their differences and challenges in the wastelands or in their specific communities and eventually grow the foundation of something that can be called solarpunk, which is
this is a how we get there
exactly
story. Yeah.
So it's a very it's about building a hopeful, chaotic and positive future. Chaotic in a good way in that it means
productive
messy.
way.
Yes.
Yeah. Productive chaos is where I live.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, I particularly like this one because it does embrace the messiness of building a solarpunk future, and that the messiness is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that there's no clear-cut way of doing it. There's many different pathways for us to get there, which is great news for building a solarpunk future.
It's great news, and it's also evident in the amount of different games and approaches
100%.
creators have taken to try and show how we get to our solarpunk future.
Exactly. And the game is obviously also about finding ways of working through our differences in a peaceful manner. Too.
Yes.
So that's pretty amazing.
Another amazing example, also that I found on Kickstarter way back when we were planning this Solarpunk season, is a game called Fly Softly. So also a tabletop role-playing game that follows monarch butterfly people known as sim monarchs.
Oh my gosh.
And it follows them on their yearly migration from near-future West Virginia Appalachian Mountains to forests in Mexico. So this Solarpunk story is about navigating relationships among ghosts, mutants, humans, animals, plants, insects in the land. So lots of different non-human others, but equally as important as humans. So they're really trying to find, their balance in navigating those relationships. And on the journey, these sim monarchs use their supernatural talents to help folks with environmental, social, and magical issues.
That's so cool. I feel like whimsy is also strong in this one.
Whimsy is also strong. I think you'd love the art style of these, how the sim monarchs kind of have butterfly markings, kind of like almost like faded tattoos or like soul marks.
Yes,
like on
this is
skin.
me. This is me. Yes.
So I really love that. And again, like I was saying, I love the choose your own adventure style of these tabletop role-playing games. That's very Solarpunk. You're so actively engaged when you're playing, particularly those games, I think, beyond even some of the other board games and video games, because you're creating the world as you play as well. And you can make almost infinite choices rather than just what's programmed or what's available to you through the literal cards you're dealt. And this brings us to talk about other types of Solarpunk games.
Yes.
So you may be thinking, Ella and Isabel, you've just told us about video games, board games, which include tabletop role-playing games. What is possibly next? Now, I want to talk to you about things you might not consider games.
Okay.
And there's only 2 on this list because I find them really hard to think of. And yet I think they're really, really powerful. The first one I'm going to talk about is... It looks like a board game, and it's right in front of us on this table. It's called Beyond Design. Now, this is essentially a method of designing solutions wrapped up in packaging to look like a game. Oh. But it's actually a card and worksheet setup where individuals or groups of up to 30 people can set up their own socially relevant design project. So Beyond Design has cards that guide you through picking a topic, then picking an audience and a problem statement. Then it directs you to make a mind map, adding visual associations to the mind map, and from that you pull a key to solving the problem, which you then explore through mediums, partnerships, and finally a presentation where either yourself or the jury of other players will give you marks.
Oh my God.
And it gives you marks based on an assessment of the originality, feasibility, solutions-oriented approach, connection with target audience, strategy, quality pitch, and finally teamwork for an ultimate score.
It's kind of like gamifying systems thinking.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's not so much a game as it is saying there are lots of different things in this world. I bet if we give you 3 cards and we say choose one of these and think of a problem in it, you can. And then they give you a bunch of cards and they say choose 2 of these 4 to be your target audience. And you can think about how, there might be issues that relate to your climate, your target audience. And then you've got your problem statement that you make from the 2 of those. It's just leading you through a way to design solutions, which sounds really broad, but it is.
Yeah.
I view this game as so Solarpunk because you win by creating something and you score it, and you score well by making sure it fits its purpose and audience. It's like human-oriented design done it in microdoses. This game, I think you set a timer and you only go for half an hour.
Oh, that's clever as well. Yeah.
So it's all about thinking and creating socially oriented solutions. It's reflective. It's a brainstorming tool. And I believe that it just might lead to action.
Ooh.
So I think if you loved reading Jane McGonigal's games, this is kind of like just a wrapped up version of that.
Yes. That's like gives you the tools to be able to play what she's what she says in that book. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, because it's delivered to you like a game, I think it opens your brain up for that plasticity and that creativity.
Yeah.
Leading to innovative solutions.
That's pretty cool.
So I wouldn't describe it necessarily as a game, but it is. If you catch my thinking.
Yeah, where it doesn't, yes, I see what you mean, because it doesn't quite fit into video. Well, it's obviously not a video game, but it doesn't quite fit into the board game.
Yeah. It's like a thing.
Section either. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you've got another one.
I've got another one. This is also one that I perpetually text Isabel about whenever I'm in a Lego store.
Yeah, and I love it.
I sent Isabel a series of photos, perhaps, of specifically the Lego Friends set boxes. And Lego Friends is like a spin-off of these building bricks from the company Lego, and this is the girlhood-oriented branch, where girl characters that aren't minifigs for some reason have their own socially designed buildings, kind of more like a community version of Lego City. So it's kind of like a town than tall buildings necessarily. And something that I just started noticing on their packaging was that there was a lot of solar panels. And you knew there were solar panels because there'd be like a little flat bit on top of the roof. And then they would draw, like they'd have a sun showing rays hitting that. And the sun wasn't part of the set. And I was like, that's a pretty interesting thing to include.
Yeah.
It's just a solar panel. There's not really any playable aspects. And I noticed it more and more and more. And then I became obsessed. And now every time there's any Lego, I go and look for Lego Friends. And here is a list of the things that I've seen. I've seen solar panels. I've seen nature-inspired and nature-entwined designs. I've seen windmills included in these sets. I've seen beekeeping suits giving to Lego Friends characters.
Yeah.
I've seen electric cars and chargers. And these chargers are either powered by the sun or in some cases wind. They give you a mini wind turbine to power your
Oh my God.
electric vehicle, your EV.
Stop it.
I have seen them have organic farms, organic grocery stores, organic cafes. I see them have a vintage store promoting recycling with like a big recycling sign at the front. And it all seems to be based on having a really cohesive social life, essentially. Like the girlhood, the Lego Friends brand is about connecting with other people. And it also seems to be about connecting with nature.
Yeah.
And doing things sustainably.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not quite a game. It's a toy. You can play games with it. And I just think it's so important for particularly girls to be able to engage with STEM in this super casual way.
Yeah.
But it also then builds that into what they are learning to accept as they grow older.
Yeah.
I do find it strange that it's predominantly in the girls' line of toys.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
There are some offshoots of like Lego City I've seen that have, you know, the cars with the chargers, like the electronic vehicles.
Yeah.
And some select sets have solar panels. But I would really say Lego Friends has that as such a reoccurring theme, but it's never dominant. It's in the background and it's just saying
It's just
this
there,
is how it should be.
which is very Solarpunk, the fact that it's just there. And I guess anybody can play Lego Friends. It's just it's very heavily marketed towards
particularly young girls.
It's very gendered marketing.
Yes.
And but that's really cool. That makes me really excited, and I realized I think we need to write something about Solarpunk girlhood.
Okay,
Because
so I've
are we
actually been
this?
thinking about this.
Are we Solarpunk girlhood? I think we might be that.
Maybe so. Maybe so. And just before we move on, I just wanted to say, you know, I've talked about specifically Lego Friends, but there is no reason why a Solarpunk game can't be any other game in a Solarpunk setting or used in a Solarpunk way. So even regular wooden building blocks, even the throwing game Finska, even like quoits.
Yeah.
There are so many games that could be considered Solarpunk in different contexts.
Yeah.
And the context is normally your imagination and the way you play it.
Yeah.
So it was quite a small section, this other types of Solarpunk games. And I think that's because in one way it's also the most broad.
Yeah.
And this is probably where we're going to see the most games will play in the future because it's so open-ended.
Yeah, and where Solarpunk is subtly added to gaming more generally and toys and any form of playing, really, any form of play, and sort of what you were saying on how Solarpunk can be added to any kind of game.
Yeah.
I also wanted to wrap up by saying there are so many other Solarpunk and Solarpunk-adjacent games out there that we don't have space to discuss here. We've just picked a few, and look, we've been talking
whizzed through them.
We've whizzed through them. We've been talking for an hour now. We could keep going, but we try to keep this an hour-long episode. And I also wanted to say there is a fantastic blog post that compiles a whole bunch more of these games and really investigates to what extent they're actually Solarpunk in the various different ways they can be Solarpunk. And so we'll make sure to link that below for some further exploration for our listeners. And I also wanted to say, speaking of this blog post, there is a great quote from it that I think is a lovely note to end on, where the blogger says, "It's not only how a given game is constructed on the surface, but also what emergent behaviors it can induce in us and make us internalize more or less consciously." And I think this is so true.
Because games are about what you make of them and you get from them and add to them.
Exactly. And kind of like what we were saying in the introduction, games are amazing because you can really immerse yourself in Solarpunk worlds, sometimes more so than books and TV shows, depending on the context. And you can, I guess, quote unquote, play in imagined hopeful futures. Yeah.
Wow. What a beautiful moment to wrap up on. And by wrap up, of course, I mean wrap up the main section of this podcast because, as always, and if you didn't expect it after our optimism episode, we are now going to turn to some really good news.
We are. Okay. My good news today is about bees.
Okay, love bees. I'm immediately on board.
Me too. So Peru has become the first country to grant legal rights to insects, specifically native stingless bees in the Amazon.
Cool.
And so these legal rights allow bees to exist, thrive, and be represented by humans in court against threats like pesticide use, deforestation, pollution, habitat loss, climate change, and anything else that's getting in the way of their survival and flourishing. So 2 local laws have granted rights to over 170 stingless bee species in Peru. So that's quite a few. And these species are culturally and spiritually significant to Indigenous peoples and help maintain a healthy rainforest ecosystem. So they're very critical to the Amazon.
Central.
Yes. And Costanza Prieto, who's the Latin American legal director at the Earth Law Center, says that this, quote, represents a turning point in our relationship with nature. It makes stingless bees visible, recognizes them as rights-bearing subjects, and affirms their essential role in preserving ecosystems. So they're thinking very Solarpunk here, actually. And though a handful of other creatures have been granted legal rights over the recent years, and these are animals like sea turtles in Panama and all the wild animals in Ecuador, experts say that these laws in Peru are the first such instances involving insects, which can often get forgotten in these situations because of the whole cuteness bias thing, right?
They're small, you don't see them that often, but they have a huge impact on our environment.
Exactly. And so these laws are really necessary to combat the crazy extinction rates happening at the moment because all the other protections in place, unfortunately, are not enough. So this is a new step to try and help a bit more. And reading about this story, it actually reminded me of how Aotearoa, New Zealand, grants legal personhood to several natural landscapes like rivers and mountains, and how that legal status enables them to have the rights of a person and be managed for their own protection rather than for ownership or exploitation. And that's exactly what these new laws in Peru for bees are doing.
It's really reminding me of a legal version of the Lorax who speaks for the trees. We've got now people who are legally allowed to represent bees, mountains, rivers.
Yeah.
And that can only be for good for our environment holistically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that good news story. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I've got one to share that's for me and Isabel a little bit of a tearjerker.
Oh, yeah.
We actually got choked up talking about this before the episode. And these are some stories of local heroes at home. So if you live near the sea, particularly if you live in Australia, you know the ocean isn't something to be trifled with. And unfortunately this summer, particularly down where my folks live, we've seen a lot of drownings. But the good news is that good people are out there and they're helping people avoid awful drowning fates and similar. And some of these really good people are Australian children.
Yes.
So recently, you may have heard in the news, this made international headlines. A family of 4 made up of a mum and her 3 kids went stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking off the coast of Western Australia. Now, this family unfortunately got caught up in big swells, dragged out to sea. They started having their boards tip over. They started missing oars and they were drifting further away from land. And it was quite a scary situation. And as a family, they kind of made this decision. The mum helped make this decision that the 13-year-old child, just barely a teenager, Austin Appleby, was to brave a solo expedition back to land. And he was in a kayak. Now, this kayak was starting to leak even as he left. So he was in a leaking kayak trying to paddle to shore to get help. The progress was really slow. The kayak was taking on more water. Austin left the kayak, started swimming. The life jacket was holding him back. He took off the life jacket and he swam for 4 kilometers to shore. 4 kilometers is so huge.
That's so long.
Especially open swimming, like open water swimming.
For a 13-year-old kid as well.
Yeah. After 4 hours of being away from shore, he finally reached the sand, momentarily collapsed after all that exertion, and then still somehow found the strength. I'm getting shivers. Still somehow found the strength to run 2 kilometers up the beach to call 000, the Australian Emergency Service number. And this led to his family ultimately being rescued, and he ended up in hospital to be taken care of. He's okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's so emotional because what a lovely young boy and what strength and courage he displayed. And the fact is that he's not the only teenager recently, even in that, I think, week period, to save someone's life or someone's plural life. And that was actually the second story I'd heard that day about teenagers and beach rescue. So recently, 3 people in Tasmania, so pretty far away from WA, were swept out to sea on a rip. And one managed to get herself back to some rocks to get out of the water, but 2 teenagers were being swept out quickly on a rip, which is a pretty scary current that can drag you a couple of kilometers out into open water. 4 teenage boys saw a mum on the beach being really distressed about this. They jumped in the water, swam out to help these 2 other teenagers in need who needed help, needed rescuing and also reassurance. And they swam out to where they'd gotten swept away by the rip, and they helped them get back to safety. And that's just so amazing.
Yeah.
Tasmanian police joined the community in praising this group of young rescuers, but they said, quote, "While police do not encourage members of the public to enter the water to conduct rescues beyond their capabilities, on this occasion, the teenagers involved were confident and capable in open water conditions," end quote. And how lucky we are to have young people in our country like this, who are heroic, who are brave, who are kind. And I just think that's so amazing, and these stories need to be spotlighted.
Yeah.
particularly because in our third episode this season, in Community and Third Spaces, we spoke about how there aren't many places made available to this period of youths, how they're often seen as troublesome, and how important it is to actually value the role they have in our society. And that shouldn't mean they have to put their life at risk to save others, but I think this is just such a great example of perhaps a very poorly misrepresented group of demographic group in our media.
I was just about to say it is so nice to see teenagers portrayed that in that way as these kind, strong, young people. That's not just because I think, unfortunately, right now, Generation Alpha, and I am guilty of this too, Generation Alpha gets a lot of hate. But there's some really good kids out there, some really amazing teenagers. And yeah, I mean, hearing that is just, yeah, I'm trying not to cry.
I know it's about emotional and just their resilience.
I didn't think we would need tissues for this episode, but apparently we did.
And there's none in the studio.
No. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We need to amplify those stories a lot more. So thank you so much for sharing not one, but two.
I know, I got to stop
stories.
this because I've been on a roll of multiple stories recently.
Yeah, but they're all connected, right?
They are all connected. Leaves me with the warm and fuzzies that also, two starts to become a pattern.
Yes.
And I think that's just so wonderful. But
yeah,
moving on from those good stories, but keeping the good feeling they've left us with, audience, as always, we want to know what you're thinking, particularly after this episode.
Yeah.
So we've got some questions for you.
Yeah. So, audience, I'd love to know what you think makes a game solarpunk, what you've seen out there beyond video games and board games as well, like we were talking about, and also which ones in development are you most excited to play?
Because we've listed off a few. There might be even some you know about that we don't. And I had a further question to think about. So if you had to choose, do you think it matters more to have a solarpunk aesthetic, mechanic, or world building element when it comes to creating solarpunk games?
Oh no, particularly don't make me choose.
And I'd like you to think of this particularly if you're introducing someone to the world of solarpunk.
Yeah.
Which of those three, or maybe there's a fourth element you want to bring in, do you think is the most important element for that introduction? That's something I've been thinking about throughout this is if I had to pick one of these games, which would I pick, and is it because of the mechanic?
Yeah.
So we'd love to know. Please let us know what you think on our socials at sci_burst, or you can email us at sciburstpodcast@gmail.com.
And as always, everybody, stay nerdy.
Yeah.
And we will see you next time.
Woo!
Woohoo!